begin by thanking Dr. Vaibhav for having invited me, and it's a pleasure to speak in front of Dr. Murli, who has been our teacher and always a tech guru, and he's also working in the technology sector. Thank you very much, sir. So I'll be talking about 3D printing, and so 3D printing started in the 1980s, and it has been a little bit slow to catch on. But now we see a sudden surge in the interest because of a few factors, that it has become more predictable, it has become more accessible, the technology has sort of come in every house. You get 3D printers which are as cheap as 25 to 30,000 to make toys and make simple models. So there is a very large increase in the interest and applications of use of 3D printing, especially in orthopedics. So I will restrict my talk to the use only in orthopedics because there is a plethora and there is a tremendous amount of work which has been done in a non-orthopedic specialties. So in a sense, what is 3D printing? So just like this jalebi maker is making his jalebi, and basically he's laying down the batter to be fried in the oil. So similarly, a material is being laid down. It is in the form of either a small string or a powder or a metal. And there are these different inks that can be used. It is laid down and built from bottom to up. So this, in essence, is a 3D printing where we create a 3D model. And once the model is created, it basically is sort of machined, it's made smooth, and is given a final form and a shape either by using solutions, dissolvents, and things like that. The best part about it is that 3D printing has decreased the cost of manufacturing and decreased the wastage of the material that is being used. The 3D biosphere comprises of few things. Now, it is 3D graphy, which is like creating a biomodel. There are 3D tools, which are like jigs and trajectory guides. There are 3D printed implants. And the last thing, which is the most exciting, is the biological inks that have come into play now, which basically is bioprinting. And I'll be talking about all of these, which are available to us in the city of Bombay. So the materials which are we commonly using for 3D printing applications can be thermoplastic polymers, can be metals like titanium, tantalum. We can use various alloys. Bone-like substitutes like bone ceramics, hydroxyapatite, tricalcium phosphate, gelatin, collagen, polyurethane, PEEK, and of course the bioinks. So let's start with the educational applications. So the 3D printed models make it extremely easy to understand and explain a concept very well to the person or to the student. These files can be saved, they can be reproduced, or they can be shared. A simple example that we had made for our BOS pelvioacetabular course during the pandemic, when we could not get the delegates to sort of in person attend these lectures, was that we created this model amalgamating fracture patterns of 2 or 3 patients, putting these blocks together, and thankfully they were made in Powai here with our colleagues. And these models could be sort of dispatched to the delegates who are attending the course from various parts of the country. The faculty had it, and it was all on a Zoom. So basically, it was very easy for everyone to understand the various fracture patterns and the various deformities or the deforming forces. These 3D printed models could be radiographed. So the students could sit in their operation theater, they could X-ray it, they could pass some screws, understand what the views are and how we see it intraoperatively. It is efficient for a doctor-patient communication. So this is a 3D printed model of a hip which had gone a lot of osteolysis, and we wanted to do a complex revision. So we could sort of even do a pre-op planning. This is good for a doctor-to-doctor communication. This is my registrar, who's holding the model of an acetabulum. This is my mentor, Dr. M.L. Saraf, who's holding this model of a 3D printed acetabulum and communicating with us at the time of the surgery, before the surgery. This has led to an offset of the next. We go to the next stage where we create a patient-specific implants and instruments. So these implants are specifically for patients who have got a abnormal bony anatomy. Now I know Adarsh is going to follow me, and he has got a different take on the patients with abnormal anatomy and better solutions for that, hopefully. The indications could be dwarfism, hip dysplasia, revision hip arthroplasty, or bone tumor resection. 3D graphy essentially means creating a 3D model based out of MRI models or basically a CT scan. Now this is particular signature knee replacement, which we have done a fair number in 5-6 years back. We create a 3D model of the patient's knee along with the osteophytes. We perform the virtual surgery. This virtual data is put into a CAD/CAM processing, creates a model of the patient's femur, gives us the jigs to be put in a particular manner. This is made idiot-proof. So all I have to do is I have to expose the knee and put the jigs in the best place that it will fit, and it will fit only in one particular position. It gives us this patient pin placement devices, and once that is done, the surgery is virtually done. I have to thank my colleague, Dr. Michel Parekh, who has lent me the extras of this case. This is a malignant tumor in the superior part of the acetabulum. This was the MRI presentation, an extensive tumor. He needed to resect it, and he needed to resect a wide margin and was not going to be left with any of the hip. So the solution for that, he thought, was use a 3D printed implant. Now, this is a 3D printed implant. For the people who do joint replacement, the inner aspect of this implant is basically can accommodate a pinnacle shell. So the pinnacle is made by DePuy. So it has got the same tolerance and the same fit as the pinnacle. So this was the prototype. This was a 3D printed implant, which was made of titanium cobalt chrome alloy. This was the intraoperative picture. This is the postoperative picture. Unfortunately, the malignancy was a very high-grade malignancy, and 2 years following the surgery, the patient succumbed. We've been using 3D printed casts, which are sort of variables. You know, you do a surgical fixation, you can make a 3D printed cast based on the CT scans that you have had done at the time of the injury. These casts are breathable. Patients, there are various studies which are saying the patients have got a better acceptability of the cast. They're going to remain in the cast and they're going to comply with it longer. So what's the blueprint for the future? We are here as of now. All of this is possible in the city of Bombay. Now there is something else that we can do is we can create a CT or MRI we can get a CT or MRI to sort of understand the bone defect or the bony pathology that the patient has, the resection that we are going to do, and print a scaffold which is made from these bioceramics. It is faster, is more cost effective, and then you can use bioinks, which basically we are using cultured osteoblast and PRPs and other, but cultured osteoblast, collagen, and all these vascular growth factors can be inserted. These scaffolds would basically give a place for the osteoblast to go, and there it will lay down new bone. The possibilities are endless. So these tissues like livers, kidneys, along with the vasculatures are being created. They have been used especially in pediatric malignancies, diseases like IG nephropathy, where you cannot get samples to run your drug test on, to run these toxicity tests on, and therefore it gives a tremendous impetus to research. In the future, they're saying you can have personalized pills, like someone is on monoclonal antibodies. You can sort of have monoclonal antibodies tailored to a particular pathology in the particular dose that that patient requires. He can just get the software, get it printed off. So this is like way forward in the future. In situ bioprinting is being worked on at a few IIT hospitals, IIT institutes, where they are toying with the idea of getting a 3D printer to print skin, which can just be printed and laid down on the patient's defect. Next, we come to the last part is the 4D printing and the 5D printing. So what is 4D printing? The 4D printing is basically using smart inks. So imagine that you are using a stent and deploying a stent, and the stent is made of a particular material, or the bone is made of a particular material that under certain temperatures, exposure to blood or plasma, it just changes its form or function. So this is how the scaffold was inserted, and then when it is exposed to water, blood, or certain conditions, it will just expand. So the possibilities are endless. You can have an acetabular defect, you can insert the bone, and as it absorbs the blood, it will just become big, it will just sort of be there. The last slide, 5D printing. So 5D printing, this is a publication from Jamia Millia Islamia University. So 5D printing basically means that you can print 3D models along with the vessels, and it can go on twisting and turning. So you can build in curvatures, you can build in the tortuosities of the vessels, the brain tissue, the kidney tissue, using different inks for the same purpose. So you can use an angiogenic sort of ink, you can use a different ink to print the collagen. So the future perspective, it is a revolutionary technology. Its everyday use can be limited if we can prove the advantages over the disadvantages. The cost is every day getting lesser and lesser. There are more number of players coming in the market which are driving down the cost. However, we need to have some regulatory mechanisms to make sure that this does not fall in the wrong hands or it's not exploited for some unethical uses. So I hope it will be goodbye to sort of bone grafts. More, we welcome printed, customized implants, bones, tendon, tissues, ligaments, and specific defects. Thank you.